this is probably my favorite part of the conference. We started this last year. We thought to ourselves, we want to really highlight the law firms and other in-house legal departments that are doing some really innovative stuff. We're not talking about like run-of-the-mill stuff. We're talking about some really innovative stuff. So we established LexPrize, and we invited anyone to apply. We got a lot of applications. And then what we did, and if you disagree with the selections, you can blame the advisory board. We had to whittle them down to the final 3. So we have 3 presentations today, 10 minutes. They have 10 minutes to do whatever they want. I think some of them are going to show you their stuff. Maybe there'll be time for questions. I don't know. But they'll be ripped off the stage after 10 minutes. So let's get this started. Oh, I should tell you, you're going to vote on the winner. So this is like a People's Choice Award, right? So this is sort of the criteria, and it's intentionally vague because we want you to, figure it out for yourself. We'll show you this again later. After you've seen all of the presentations, in the conference app you can vote. If you are more of an analog person, we have pieces of paper you can vote with as well. So you choose that as well. But pay close attention. Check out what the 3 finalists have to offer. And again, I don't know, Sarah's one of them. I hope she doesn't threaten you with her jujitsu. So don't.
Oops.
Well,
We'll be very gentle.
She'll be gentle. But we do have some great presentations. So the first one is Munger. Is it Rihanna? Okay, great. So you've got 10 minutes. You know the drill, right? All right, there's your timer. Here's your microphone.
I got a mic.
Oh, you got a mic.
I'm ready. I need that.
All right, you need this. This is the clicker.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rihanna.
Hi. Thank you. All right, I'm Rihanna Martinez. I'm the Director of Innovation Systems and Data from Munger, Tolles & Olson. I'm super honored and excited to be the finalist for this award. This project represents a large-scale operational transformation for MTO. And I'll start off with a disclaimer that this is not an AI project. This is good old-fashioned database workflow and automation development. I'm a firm believer that innovation isn't just about the shiny new things that are out there on the market, but by leveraging your existing solutions in new and innovative ways, you can create something that is really just as impactful. So that's exactly what we did with this project. We already had made a significant investment of time and money in Microsoft Dynamics, and with our intent of building a unified operational database. Nearly every department has a custom module built in Dynamics for one or more business functions. We've all heard of the mythical ERP, and this is truly along those lines. So this development phase connected 4 key operational areas, each managed by different stakeholders, but deeply interrelated. The 4 areas in question are vendor management, where we do our vendor risk assessments and contract review, a budget module to track estimated and actual costs, a project module to track department and strategic initiatives, and a procurement module to manage purchase orders, approvals, and invoices. So I'll touch on the full architecture at the end, but I wanted to highlight that since we were building upon our existing Dynamics environment, we had already established integrations with our financial system and our HR system, which allows us to leverage client, matter, and employee data in any module. So let's talk about what we built. Starting off with the budget module. Everything starts with a budget, right? We all love budget season, don't we? So prior to development of this solution, we had a shared Excel spreadsheet with tens of thousands of rows. There were too many contributors, and it was really difficult to determine what had been updated, what had been finalized, and make sure that nothing was missed. The budget process now has much more transparency and accountability. Each department has their own budget record for each year for their department, and we're seeing our ITS departments here on the screen. and the department leaders have access to view and manage their own budgets. Each departmental budget is made up of budget items, which is one row or entry into the budget. And each budget item record contains all the essential data from vendors, supporting documents, responsible parties, payment schedules, and everything else, even a recurrence flag that allows us to automatically bring recurring costs forward into the next year so we don't miss any of those contractual obligations. And it also enables forecasting and year-over-year spend comparison. What's important to note is the business process flow that you'll see across the top in blue, and that's on every Dynamics record. This mechanism allows us to standardize the steps of the workflow, to enforce consistency, to capture the right data at the right time, to make sure required actions are performed, and to track the progress of the process. This system also auto-generates monthly payment schedules based on the information provided, which we send to our friends in finance for spend projections. I mentioned budget items reference a vendor, and the vendor module is the repository for vendor records and serves as the governance team's tool for risk reviews and documentation. The business process flow for vendors will guide the user to gather the appropriate information needed for the vendor risk assessment and ultimately submit the vendor to the governance team and notify them to start the review. The vendor risk review also has their own business process flow, so reviews are now standardized, data-driven, and auditable. This process used to take place over email. So now, each review provides a historical record with a calculated risk rating based on a custom algorithm, and we can see how our engagement with the vendor and the vendor risk has changed over time. So assuming our vendor is approved, we naturally engage with the vendor for a contract. And the vendor document module is the repository for all vendor documents, including contracts, SOWs, NDAs, technical documentation, and everything else. This is where we track key details like renewal dates and responsible parties. This is also how contracts get submitted to our contract team for redlining, and of course we have a standardized business process flow which has different steps and approvals depending on the document type. Moving on to projects. The projects leverage both the budget, the vendor, and the contract information and acts as the central hub for all department initiatives. We actually create our project records during budget planning so we can visualize all of our commitments for the upcoming year. A project record contains all of the key pieces of information to understand that project at a glance, and automated project updates capture a snapshot of the status and important documentation to distribute to stakeholders with one click, creating an archive of point-in-time activity of every project. Now, inevitably, we're going to start making payments to our vendors, and that's where the procurement module comes in, where we track and manage purchase orders, invoices, and approvals. Each project can link to a vendor, project, and budget items, and we're able to track both budgeted and unbudgeted spend. So invoice payments create an actual payment record, and if you remember, our budget module creates an estimated payment schedule, and we can compare that to our actual payments. So you can start to see how all of these pieces are interconnected. Budgets, projects, vendors, payments, they're all linked for full visibility across operations. And users don't have to leave the interface or switch between apps to get to the information that they need. And what would a database be without dynamic, comprehensive reports? So using Power BI, we can slice and dice and visualize the data in all the ways imaginable and get insights into our progress, our performance, and key metrics so we can make data-driven decisions at every level. And there are many, 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 many more of these. So this project has really helped to streamline what were previously siloed and distinct workflows and provide insights into data that we simply didn't have before this solution existed. And we did all of this with zero cost other than the time of a few internal resources. I personally did all of the design and development of these modules. And we really just scratched the surface on this. I don't have a lot of time to delve into the details. There's an incredible amount of functionality that we don't have time to get into. But what I hope you'll walk away with is that innovation can meet you where you are. You don't have to have a huge budget. You can work with the tools and resources that are available to you and create something really impactful. Old school information systems are not being thrown out the window. Not yet, anyway. This project, we've already seen incredible value in the form of time savings, accountability, accuracy, and reporting. And to be honest, this is the type of foundational data readiness that is required for advanced analytics and AI reasoning. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Very
you.
well done. Very well done. I'll take that from you. Do not vote yet. There are 2 more contestants on the LexPrize. Price is Right. Okay, the next presentation is from Stradley, Ronon. Sarah Hirebit, you ready for this?
I'm ready for this.
All right, take that and do your thing.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Sarah Hirobet, Stradley Ronon, here to talk about any moment that the clicker, wait, am I clicking the right thing? I'm not clicking the right thing. To talk about our Stradley Labs Legal Gen AI Drivers Certification Program. But before I do, I just want to say that I'm so grateful to be here with you at this conference. I first attended the precursor conference way back in the day when it used to have another name in 2012, and I had that badge that said first time attendee, and Joshua made sure everybody was like, find this person and talk to her. And he made sure that I had friends to meet, including Kim Stein was one of my first people, and she's not here today, and you should all send her, if you're one of her fans, send her a love message today. Kim Stein, one of our great people, and then of course Patrick, who welcomed me. He told me I said something clever in one of the sessions, and he gave me a free copy of his book, which Gen AI notwithstanding, still the standard of how to do KM and innovation in your law firm. And so to be here with all of you, many of whom have become good friends over time, is a great honor to talk about this program. And when we think about what we are trying to do at Stradley, we are trying to do something that meets the standards that we all set here when we come in these spaces and collaborate together. So when we think about Gen AI training, we've got a really difficult task in front of us because the tech is complex and the ethics rules are strict. And the lawyers, as we learned at last year's conference when Julia Montgomery and Larry Richards talked to us about their personality profiles, are incredibly skeptical. And in addition to that, I have my own problem. When I get past the sila of my budget meeting, I then run into the next Greek monster on my list, my Cribidus, Dan. I love Dan. Dan is a good guy. Dan is my DC, my GC. He is also the guy in charge of stopping me. And he does a really good job. And he says, Sarah, you cannot, I don't care what you paid for these tools, you can't put them out there until we meet our ethics requirements and the firm is safe, so you're done. And so I said, how am I going to defeat Dan, who again, he's a wonderful person, I love Dan, but he was in my way. And I said, we're going to defeat him by dealing with these ethics rules. These are incredibly complex. You guys read the 512 opinion and how much it goes through, and you say to all your lawyers, you have to do all these things, these huge hoops you have to get through to get your client consent. And we have to teach all of you that, so how do we do it? We define a standard of training. And I looked around and I tried to see what was out there, what were my peers saying, what was available to buy, and I couldn't find anything that was clean and clear. And so what I'd like is, if underneath your chairs, we passed one out. It's also available on the Stradley Ronon website under our innovation tab. This is for you. This is our core competencies, a bit of an outline of our curriculum. If you want more, we will talk to you about it. We will share. We don't have to do this by ourselves because we're talking about a standard for legal and how we should do this the best way. And I'm sure we haven't done it the best yet. We have more work, so we want to be in dialogue with you. So we'll talk a little bit about the curriculum. So one of the first things is what's the what? And here you can see our ethics rules. They're listed with our 6 C's. I spent a lot of time doing that. Jenny, I helped a little bit. How do we get down to something people can remember? But also, we put it in a place where everyone can find it. This is the stratosphere. This is our internet. And we've got some centralized places where we say, when you do this task, you'll find your resource at all times, fully accessible and ready for you when you need to think about what it is. And then we get into all the technical issues, and we've worked very hard to make them clean and clear. And it's interesting what Michelle said earlier today about repeating things 3 times. I think that's very true. We have got to keep bringing back these concepts because the idea of a deterministic model was something we were all very comfortable with. And now that we're in this probabilistic space where the machine lies to you, where the machine isn't thinking, but it's producing statistically probable answers, and it's baked in with all the bias of all that we've ever written and put out into the world, we've got a lot of work to do. And when we talk about how to do it, then we need to think about how to bring those things back comfortably, but in a repeated way. So part of our methodology was to record videos ahead of time that we could say we're going to get into the substance, and we're going to ask you to come already baked in with some knowledge so that we can use our time together to be interactive, to get into breakout groups, to solve problems, to go down into Gen AI tools, use real use cases, and to stress something that is really hard for the lawyers. You have to experiment, and you have to fail, and you have to try again, and you have to map your process. We're back to traditional KM. And in addition to being able to talk about all of these things, we wanted to make sure that they were able to learn together. And we had, ultimately, in the end, we'd capstone them with a hackathon where they would test this out and in the real world. We also have an amazing partnership with VLEX. They sent us people to do this with us. If you don't know Anusha Galepsi, she has a background in innovation at Eversheds and then at Harvard Executive Education. She partnered with us along with Kelsey Kikozo, who is the best customer service person I have ever had and a former teacher, and Laura Chance on the Stradley team, who is a process expert. And I submit that you need these kinds of teaching-focused people to do this well. And we also needed a sandbox, a place to play. And so we were able to work with them to say, here's a secure place. And we are rolling out enterprise access, not just to our lawyers, but actually to everybody in the firm. So what's next for us? We did a cohort this summer with 30 lawyers, 25 lawyers and 5 business professionals. We are doing it again now on a refined version, an amazing opportunity to process improve. It's so much more fun. And the third time is going to be even better when we do it again in Q1. We're running everything on this cohort so people can learn together and have this continuity and this place to find their peers. We are customizing our training tracks. We sat and we're like, what's everything you need? But then, you know, if your supervising lawyer is going to retire in 2 years, you don't want to go to 13 CLE certified sessions over weeks of time with some in-person time. And so we're working on how do we craft training that meets certain people where they are on persona. And we are also working with some nonprofit groups to develop ways to bring our standard and our training to them so that they don't have to develop it, so we can be part of some access to justice issues and making sure that people who don't have as many resources as we have can also join in this space. Why does this matter? So Thomson Reuters has given us a bunch of professional services reports. These numbers come from people in our categories of professionals. 95% say that they expect Gen AI to become central to their organization's workflow by 2030, but 64% say that no specific Gen AI training is available. That's a big gap. And that gap is these professionals are in our law firms, but they're also at our clients. And it's an opportunity for us to say, we're your counselors. We can be your counselors for this, but we got to go first. 57% of corporate legal departments say that they want outside counsel to use Gen AI. But I think even more interesting is the 16% who say that they don't. And I had the privilege of getting called to a meeting after one of our Stradley Labs cohorts had finished, and these partners said, client says we have to go to our regular 6-month meeting and we got to talk about Gen AI. What do we do? I said, one, bring one of our Stradley Labs graduates. He's an associate on your team. And they're like, oh, they love him. Great. And I'll come too. And we'll talk. And these guys said, we have HIPAA. We have rules. We can't do this. And they walked out of the meeting because we had refined how we would communicate about the security we were able to offer, saying, fantastic, take our favorite associate who you've trained here and put him to work in our matters. We're ready to experiment with you, because we're also able to talk to them about the fact that we have to think about it that way. So, I'm out of time, but this is the last thing here. Also why it matters, because the human part of it. I want to look at some art and talk about how we feel about all of this. And we have to remember that when we do this, in the end, we're training to use the machine, but we're also training to bring our human counselor selves to bear in this space, and to do it, I hope, with a sense of delight and excitement. Thank you, Patrick.
Well done. All right, 2 down, 1 to go. Do not vote yet, because there is one more presentation. Sarah pulled out the Oprah Winfrey technique right under your chair. This is good. But the folks from Foley, come on up. The folks from Foley are going to triple threat. They have 3 people. They have 3 presenters. Charlotte, you're going to lead us off?
I think I will.
All right, thank you so much. Andrew?
Thank you. All right. Thank you, everyone. I'm Charlotte Lagulo. I'm the Director of Practice Solutions and Research at Foley and Lardner. And we are so proud to be here today and talk about FoleyChat, our winning submission for the LexPrize. But first, very quickly, let me just tell you something about Foley and Lardner. So we are a firm of 27 offices in the US and Latin America. We have 1,200 lawyers, and we have 180 years of legal experience with 60-plus practice areas, and we are known for innovation and exceptional client service. We also have legal sectors that we focus on in 4 key areas. That's innovative tech, energy, and healthcare, and manufacturing. And our integrated approach is how we deliver exceptional legal services. But let's talk about our project, and let's talk about the team. So with Tricia Dockel and Tina Rodriguez, Andrew Stevens, and Ross Berry, not everyone could be here today. This team worked extensively to take this project from concept to reality, spending countless hours going through requirements gathering, working with our lawyers, defining our processes, learning about the different models. And they worked on this very fast timeline to get this solution rolled out. They started in February, and we launched to the firm in July. And I'm going to pass to Tina.
Thank you. So with the arrival of Gen AI and the readily available ChatGPT that we knew people were using and cannot use for client data, we needed, and the attorneys complained that they needed a safe place to work. So But also, some know more about LLMs than others. One size fits all doesn't really work for the nuanced legal work that our clients are expecting from us. And then confidentiality, that's a big thing. That's why ChatGPT was such a big no-no. There's no confidentiality, so they needed that safe place. And then also, attorneys need the continuity. They need to be able to, nobody starts and finishes a project in the same, from beginning to end. You need to be able to go back to your work. You need to be able to save what you've been doing up to that point. And then there's some multi-step tasks that are repetitive that they needed to be able to automate. So enter FoleyChat. That is our secure, attorney-centric AI workspace. It is ChatGPT-like. It has multiple LLM access, and it allows you to actually switch models, even mid-conversation. If you don't want to switch between LLMs, or you don't want to be make the choice of LLMs, there's also a legal routing AI model that predicts which one to use based on the task that you're trying to perform. The attorneys will upload the documents. They are not saved, and they're only good for that conversation, but conversations are maintained so that they can go back to them. And then we've also introduced agents for the task automation, those more repeatable multi-step tasks. So our timeline ran from February through July, as Charlotte said, and it mainly consisted of 4 phases. The initiation and governance, that's where we defined requirements, aligned the governance, set checkpoints in place, and then also set our success criteria. We moved from there into a pilot with the attorneys across multiple practices, provided training, spent many hours testing, and then from there, with their feedback, we also added agentic capability, and then through that process, moved into general release across the firm by the end of July. Here's a quote from Chris McKenna. He's the office managing partner in Boston, and he's also the chair of our IP electronics and innovative technology. He and his team really especially liked the idea or the ability to be able to switch between models. And you can see in his quote, he said, "It offers our team multiple models in one secure interface. It delivers speed, accuracy, and flexibility while letting us choose the best model for each task." And with that, I'll turn it to Andrew, who can tell you how it works.
Thank you, Tina. Tina's covered some of this, and we're short on time, so I'm going to expedite what I planned on saying here. But when we started to build FoleyChat, we didn't want to just build another generic AI chatbot. We wanted an AI tool that was built for legal work. And some of the requirements for that were allowing the lawyers to select the model that they wanted, being able to change the model mid-conversation. We introduced siloed RAG, so there was this issue of if they were to upload a document into ChatGPT, for example, for client X, memories might grab some of that information and it might kind of filter into another conversation. So we introduced siloed RAG, so whenever you upload anything into a conversation, it doesn't cross over to another one. And that allows the attorneys to work in different conversations at the same time, keeping everything together. We built out agentic abilities, so workflow processes specifically for legal tasks. And then the fully intelligent model, or FIM. This was an AI model that we trained in-house to predict the best model based on the user's prompt, and that was trained on legal prompts. Some of the use cases that FoleyChat is currently being used for at Foley: in IP litigation, uploading claim charts, and it will produce a cross-motion outline. In transactional, it gets a lot of use. Lawyers will upload a contract, have it analyze the issues, switch over to a reasoning model, and then do a deep dive on a specific issue or issues. In regulatory, we have an agent where you can have it analyze a new rule, and it will automatically summarize a client-read report that you can send out. And we've also found great use cases with business development, specifically with drafting press releases, creating partner bios, and assisting with proposals. Okay. So let's look at FoleyChat. So with FoleyChat, we wanted to intentionally have a very clean user interface. The user can select a model. Currently, we're defaulting to GPT-5. They do have the ability to choose a different model. They can also choose an agent or select FIM. And then also with the output, we've done additional work there so that it's producing clear and structured output designed specifically for lawyers. So here's a typical workflow in FoleyChat. Start a Matterscope chat, upload a document, ask a question, switch models if you want to do a deeper analysis, trigger an agent for a routine or multi-step task, and then save or share the conversation with another user. So let's talk about one of our featured agents for software license agreements, nicknamed Sarah. So Sarah doesn't just summarize, it performs structured reasoning steps to review a contract issue by issue. It applies Foley's internal risk matrix and clause libraries to identify potential risks and then suggest red line changes to mitigate those risks. As Chanley Howell, one of our partners and AI innovation leaders, puts it, with Sarah, we can assess risk in minutes, not hours, while maintaining the rigor our clients expect. FoleyChat adoption started with focused pilot groups aligned to their type of work. We conducted targeted trainings to help these groups understand FoleyChat's capabilities. Security and governance compliance was built in from the start. We had continuous feedback loops, including the use of our Champions Network. We also developed on-demand training and resources so users could get help whenever they needed. Here you can see how adoption has grown. Overall, we've had steady growth, which is sustained and shows meaningful engagement at scale looking at these numbers. Some of the challenges we faced were with PDFs. We implemented document intelligence to help with that. Specifically, patent diagrams kept failing when uploading that, so we resolved that. I know we're at time here. I'm going quick here. Just keeping up with new demands. AI goes fast. OpenAI will say, hey, there's a new model. The attorneys are demanding that day, so we really have to stay on top of that stuff to get it out and ready for them. And then helping the users who don't know how to use it, that's where FIM comes in. To build it, we use LibreChat for the front end, Azure AI Foundry to deliver LLMs, Azure AI Document Intelligence. In Viva Engage, we created a community for questions, feedback, communications on updates that our Champions Network kind of partakes in quite a bit. And then we have AI guides and information available on our intranet.
With 51 seconds over.
Look at that.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
And